How to truly get those big orders with Uber Eats comes down to these tips that I'm going to be providing you today. And in today's video, I'm going to start off with tip number one, being the fact that you have to go for the best possible time slots. If you do not go for the best possible time slot, and I know you've probably heard this in endless videos before, but it's true, you won't get the biggest orders with Uber Eats. Therefore, you wouldn't get it with many of these other companies. If you don't want to secure a breakfast, lunch, or dinner, unfortunately, you're not going to secure those big orders. Because when do people want the food the most? When it comes to those big orders and those big time slots. If we are not securing those big time slots, let's say for example 5 to 7 p.m. that is the hottest time slot in my zone, and if I don't go out and do deliveries for there and I'm not getting those $20 per hour in between, well, that's my burden because I didn't go out on those best time slots. It might be repetitive, but my tip number one is definitely going to be going to time slots. Now, tip number two, I have said this in previous videos before, and if you are new to my channel, my name is Ash and I'm a gig worker here in Montreal, Quebec for Uber Eats, DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, and for Instacart. And number two has to go to exploring your market. There is many zones in each market, and each zone can be a dead zone. So if you're not going around driving around to explore those markets, you're never going to discover. It's perfectly fine to dock yourself in place 15, 20 minutes at a time waiting for a good order. But if you're sitting there continuously and you're not seeing those good orders coming in, you might want to switch up your zones because otherwise you're going to be wasting your time and not securing those bigger orders. Tip number three is crucial in my opinion, and it's securing those orders that are over $10. So let me give you a payout example. If I'm getting a $10 order, and let's say it's gonna take me about 30 minutes, that is not the worst, but it's not the best, and let me explain why. If it takes me 30 minutes to complete an order, but even if I have to drive back to the zone that I want to be in to get more orders, well then you're gonna be under the $20 per mark per hour. Because if it's gonna take over 30 minutes for one $10 time slot, and it's gonna take another 30 minutes for another one, and in between there, there's driving in between, you're gonna go under. So what I normally do is if I'm going for a $10 order, I try to look for a 20-minute time frame to do the order. So Uber Eats will give you a pop-up, for example, and let's say it says $10 for 21 minutes. Well, it's 1 minute over. I'm not gonna bicker about that. I'm gonna accept the order. But if I get a $10 order that's gonna take me 33 minutes, for example, I'm gonna decline that order. If you're not securing the time per money ratio, then there's another factor that you're gonna have to look into, and it's gonna be my tip number four. So tip number four happens to be the dollar per mile ratio, or in Canada, we call it the dollar per kilometer ratio. So on average, because I'm in Canada, I'm gonna go with kilometers, I go for about $1.50 per kilometer. If I can't secure $1.50 per kilometer, or if the orders aren't coming in fluctuating enough, then I will go for the dollar for the time slot. So again, I'm gonna look for $10 for about 20 minutes or ongoing when it comes to the price tag. But when it comes to the distance, I look for $1.50 per kilometer. Now, gas prices have gone up here in Montreal, Quebec to about $1.80 per liter. So it's a pretty hefty price tag. So if I'm gonna be securing under $1.50 per kilometer, I'm gonna stoop myself for the gas because we all know Uber Eats is not gonna pay you any gas money. And if I wanna get the biggest securing orders, then I'm gonna have to go for at least $1.50 per kilometer. This way I'm securing my price tag in the gas, but I'm also getting it for the order. Now, just because I said the fact that you gotta go for $1.50 per kilometer does not mean one important tip. And this one is, I think it's probably my most critical one. Don't be afraid to go that extra mile or that extra kilometer to secure that dollar. Let me give you an example. If I'm getting an offer for $22 and they're gonna tell me it's gonna take me 16 or 17 kilometers, am I going to do that order? My answer is going to be yes. And the reason why is even though it's gonna give me that extra distance that I'm gonna travel to, there tend to be hidden tips on those higher dollar prices for those farther distance, and it's just that Uber Eats is not showing them. So I'd much rather go that extra few kilometers or that extra mile more to secure those bucks later on, because I know based on my experience and doing these orders that a lot of times that they're hidden. Now, what I won't do is, for example, give me $22 and make me go 26 kilometers. That's too far out of the range. But if it's less distance than what it is dollars. I'll go the extra mile. I'll play the game with Uber because often you will get a hidden tip because it was a bigger order. Now, this is one that a lot of my lovelies have to stop avoiding, and that is those double stacked orders. Double stacked orders can be a pain in the neck if they're coming in and you're not seeing them on your phone and then you accidentally click. No doubt in my mind on that. However, the double stacked orders, if I'm getting a $10 order and then I double stack it with a $6, $7, or $8 order, that's not too shabby, especially if it's like a 0 kilometer radius or even a 2 kilometer radius. It does add up. A lot of people do not want to do double stacked orders because it's kind of like multitasking. It can become overwhelming, it can become confusing, and it can really make you feel stressed. But once you start to get used to those double stacked orders, you can avoid those stressors because you're going to know you're going to have those dollar signs back into your pocket, and you're truly going to make a lot more money because I truly believe the big dollars and the big orders come from double stacked orders. Now, this next one would be one that I love to see drivers stop doing, and that's stop chasing peak pay. Chasing peak pay is nothing more than a tactic that Uber Eats uses to make you feel like you're getting those big orders, but you're not. It's the crappy leftover orders that nobody wants to take during peak hours, and they're trying to push it out by giving you $1 or $1.50 more. When you start chasing those peak orders, you will notice that the total payout is probably going to be less than you expected. And that's because it's those leftover orders. You gotta stop chasing peak pay. Peak pay will hurt you, or some people call it surge pay, because all it is the crappy leftover orders from Uber Eats. Now, even though initially if an order comes in and it's a big order, it's not gonna change this aspect, but this aspect could change your tip outcome. And that's getting yourself a delivery bag. I have said this in numerous videos. You can get those big orders and secure them in a large delivery bag 10 times more than you can juggling things on 2 arms. You much rather get yourself a bigger delivery bag so that when those big orders come in, you're not taking multiple trips to your car, especially if it's a meet at the door from the customer. They're not going to be very happy with you if they see you hauling stuff out of your car and it's not in a delivery bag and you got to make multiple trips. First of all, they're going to think that the food is cold. Second of all, it's not handled with care. But third of all, that big order that you could potentially get inside that delivery bag, if you have it in that delivery bag, your customer might see you. You might be handing it to them at the door. They could turn around and give you a cash tip. They could increase the tip on the application. So you don't want to waste your time or their time by not providing yourself with a delivery bag. So go ahead and get yourself a fine-tuned up delivery bag so that you can make your orders way more easier, because it's a lot more better for those bigger orders. And my last one today is watch out for the restaurants that you're going to be driving near. If you are on a boulevard that is secured with nothing but fast food chains, I'm not saying fast food chain does not add a good extra tip in the mix. I'm not saying a good pizza order is not going to pay you good. But based on my experience, I can 100% say that a lot more beneficial tips that I've gotten comes from things like sushi or Chinese food. If you secure those much nicer upper class restaurants, you might get yourself a lot more bigger orders and be able to secure a lot more money with Uber Eats.